So how would you characterize this mechanism in a few words? If you describe the 17 plus 1 a mechanism with 4 different adjectives, what would they be, Mr. Dinifan?
You have to call these, most of these 17 countries, even in Europe, is called developing countries. Mm-hmm. We usually call these economic cooperation among developing countries South-South cooperation. So to some extent, the 17 plus 1 mechanism could be called also a sort of a South-South cooperation. Mm-hmm. And those South-South cooperation, because of Chinese market scale, have allowed those 17 countries to promote their advantage, their comparative advantage in China. So in recent years, we have seen a lot of Eastern and Central European products into Chinese market, especially with Chinese import-export in Shanghai. More and more 17 European countries likes to promote their product in this special occasion. Mm-hmm. And then that could promote their image, their advantage in Chinese market.
And what about you, Mr. Rubeck, of your version of these 4 adjectives or 4 nouns or 4 words to characterize this mechanism?
I think that we can describe the 17 plus 1 cooperation by these technical terms, I would say. First, win-win cooperation, because it's mutually beneficial. Second, I would say mutual respect, because we don't impose anything on each other, but we try to cooperate in a good way. And it's connected also with an intercultural dialogue, intercivilizational dialogue. That I would say Eurasia, because we live, in fact, in the same continent. You can say we have Europe and Asia, but it's also possible to talk about Eurasia. Mm-hmm. And it's part of global interactions, including the Belt and Road and so on. The 4th point is socialist tradition and market, because 16 plus 1 cooperation includes 16 post-socialist countries with an experience with market, and China has also the experience with socialist tradition and market. So it's something which we have common in our history.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Stopik, what's your version about these 4 words to categorize the mechanism?
First of all, thank you for the question. I think this is a good question. It's a simple question, but it's not that easy to answer. I would say, the first thing that we can say that this China plus 17 cooperation is interesting to take a little wider perspective. Interesting in many ways, because it does, in theory, envelop a lot of things. There is of course economic cooperation, there's a cultural cooperation, there's all what has been said now, and I think all those points should be taken into consideration all the time, continuously, when we talk about China plus 17. The second one I would use would be, it was mentioned before, and I will repeat it. The project is very challenging because of everything, because of diversity, because of vast differences between all those countries in China, and because of the future, because we have no idea what's going to happen in the future, and how these small economies are going to develop in accordance to this China huge economy, and this is going to take a lot of challenges, which are going to be, which is going to have to be addressed all the time, continuously. The third one, I would say ambitious, for the same reasons I mentioned before. Pretty ambitious project, again, because of all what have been mentioned so far. And the last one, I would say, debatable still. There are problems with the concept, and there are problems with perspective of this concept, and there is still a lot of questions which are continuously being asked from Europe, for example, about this concept, which and the answers are still not completely satisfying, let's say. Thank you.
So the 4 words: challenging, ambitious, interesting, and debating. So Mr. Paifo, because you were talking about the cooperation, we were talking about this problem, and Mr. Stopek has just mentioned this ambitious project. So what kind of engagement do member countries have with China today under this mechanism? Economically speaking, politically speaking, culturally speaking, are those countries like samely engaged in this project?
You know, coming from Poland, I think it's very difficult to answer these questions because the whole mechanism is very diverse. So I could tell about my country, but don't really know what's going on in other countries. But I've been accompanying my government and participating many summits since China CE summits since 1220, and I've been listening to the speeches of the leaders of other countries. And what I may say about the visions of other countries is that I wouldn't say we have different agendas, but there are accents actually certain countries put on the initiative differ. So there are different accents put on this initiative, I would say. First of all, I think it's a great platform of dialogue, and this is a great idea to exchange the views. And I think it's very valuable for all the countries participating in the initiative. Second, I would say the infrastructural projects, especially in the Balkans. We have the railway connection through Belgrade to Budapest, and I think this is very important project which attracts the attention not only of Central Eastern European countries, but also others. Also from the perspective of Poland, because we have this China-Europe Express trains, Jungą-Balnie, right? Jungą-Balnie. And 80% of the trains, it is estimated that around 80% of the trains are entering the border of the European Union in Poland. So that's why the infrastructure and railway is so important for us. And also tourism, because I could see that many Central Eastern European countries, I think Professor Hubeks may confirm this because he comes from Prague, the tourism was so important, and many countries try to attract the tourists from China. So that was also a very important part of the agenda. Certainly the investments and also the education, think tank networks, that was also very important. So there are many potential areas of cooperation. I think it's a long-term project, and we have to continue the good things. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Dinivan, we were talking about the benefits that this mechanism can bring to the European countries. And then what about China? What about China? In this mutual exchange, what has China gained from this mechanism?
Oh, China has learned a lot of things from those 17+1 mechanisms. I just wanted to respond to a very important point that Professor Hubek mentioned, because coincidentally, all these almost 17 countries and China, we are coming from a planned economy towards a market economy, so we have a lot of experience to share together. For Western countries, they think that the market is natural, the market is spontaneous. While when we get out from the completely planned economy towards a market, somehow a market economy, we know that the market has to be fostered. The market is not that spontaneous. We have to get accustomed to the market economy, and then we have to learn how to regulate the market, and the government has to play a certain role in regulating the market and then in fostering the market. Somehow, with those 17 countries, we can share all these experience, and we have learned a lot of experience from those countries who got a lot of experience from these difficult transition. I think that those humanities issues and aspects are very important in our cultural and people-to-people exchange.